So we'll start off. So good morning, students. We'll proceed with where we had left off yesterday. So yesterday we discussed the introduction to optical communication, the subject. Then I also introduced you to the various modules, the textbooks which are prescribed. Today I will be uploading the e-books that is both Kaiser as well as John Senior in the Teams group. So you can download it from there. Then I also explained you about what will be the structure of your exams. And then we started with module 1, where I explained you what are the different aspects we'll be looking at in this particular subject. We discussed a few things about optical fiber communication. The most important aspect was that OFC provides us very high bandwidth, large bandwidth, because it operates at very high frequency. So in general, the OFC will operate in the range of 1.7 micrometer to about 0.8 micrometer. This is in terms of wavelength. If I convert this into the frequency aspect, it is somewhere between 193 to 194 terahertz, right? So that's a very large bandwidth I'm looking at, very high frequency, therefore very large bandwidth. So this is one of the most important advantages of an optical fiber communication. Then we also looked at a few other aspects and advantages of the optical fiber, and then we looked at the electromagnetic spectrum, starting with microwave, going all the way till cosmic rays, and where exactly the optical fiber communication lies. So optical fiber communication is just next to the visible range, and so it's high frequency, therefore we get very large bandwidth out of optical fibers, right? So today the aim is to look at the block diagram of an optical fiber communication system, followed by the structure of the optical fiber, what exactly the optical fiber looks like. Like I said yesterday, you would have seen an optical fiber in the ADC lab in the 7th semester, where you were communicating using an optical fiber. So it looks like a wire, a thick wire, black color. The one that you used in the lab is a plastic optical fiber. So we wish to see how exactly the structure would look like, and then we'll move to the types and working and so on in the next lectures, right? So before we move to the OFC system, let's look at the generations of OFC. Right? So this is in general important to know how the optical fiber communication evolved. Right? Communication through light has been there for ages, like I specified yesterday. The tribals used to use those torches, stick fire on the stick to identify different things. So light in the form of communication has been there for a very long time. However, in the 1950s or so, people realized that fiber material could be used for communication as well. So the generations of optical fiber, like you have wireless 1G, 2G, 3G. In OFC also we have different generations. So just to specify, the first generation, which is 1G, was developed somewhere around 1975. I say 1975 because even though the research and everything was from 1960 onwards, the fibers which were developed in those years, they provided very high attenuation. That means the signal strength became very low once light passed through those fibers. It was actually around 1975 that people came up with good fibers with low attenuation. Right? So therefore, the first generation was somewhere around 1975. The operation of this OFC system in 1G was 800 nanometer. Right? So this is in terms of wavelength. Okay. Please be aware that here we'll be dealing mostly with wavelength only. Yesterday I explained to you that since the frequency is very large, it becomes difficult for us to deal with it mathematically. So mostly we'll be using wavelength only. So you'll have to get used to this wavelength term. So you can see that 800 nanometer is a very low wavelength. It is 800 into 10 raised to minus 9 meters. Right? So the operation of this 1G was somewhere around 800 nanometers. it was mostly using LED as a source. Sometimes a laser also as a source, but this laser was not efficient. Okay. So mostly it was the LED which was used at this particular, this particular generation. The other aspect, as a receiver, photo detector was used. Okay. Right now you may or may not be aware of these terms, but we'll discuss it in the system and more details in module 3. This was not a very effective system if you compare it today, because the bit rate, the data rate which you could get out of this system was somewhere around 30 to 140 Mbps. However, please realize this was in 1975. Okay. So fiber could still provide you Mbps of rate even in 1975. So very high bandwidth was provided. The repeater. Okay, repeater is another name for amplifier. The repeater spacing was about 40 kilometer. This implies that this kind of a system, the 1G system, required amplifiers to be spaced 40 kilometers apart. That means you could achieve this rate of 30 to 140 Mbps for 40 kilometers, after which the rate fell down and therefore you required an amplifier. So this was still a good system, because less number of amplifiers were required. You required amplifiers only 40 kilometers, every 40 kilometers. So this was the this is what happened in the first generation. Then we moved on to the second generation. This was in the 1980s. So let me draw a line here so we can understand 1G and 2G. This was in the 1980s. Here the operating wavelength was 1300 nanometer. So this is wavelength. Here we started using laser, very efficient lasers, and here the repeater spacing. Here the repeater spacing was about 90 kilometers. And here the fiber which was used, there's a type of fiber, the fiber which was used is known as a single mode fiber, or in short SMF. Okay. So still we are not aware of what this single mode fiber is, because we still don't know what is the what is this concept of mode. Okay. So we still need to know what this mode is. Okay, so we'll understand this in module 1, and then we'll see what is a single mode fiber. Just to let you know right now, there is another type of fiber which is also known as a multi-mode fiber. This is MMF. Okay. So as the name suggests, one is having only single mode, the other is having multi-mode. A single mode fiber can be used for long distance, whereas multi-mode fiber can be used only for short distance. All engineers will know this concept. However, many will not know why this is the case. Okay. So in module 1, we'll see why multi-mode fiber is used only for short distance, whereas why single mode fiber can be used for longer distance. Okay. So this multi-mode fiber was just for your information right now. Okay. So basically, we used the single mode fiber for in the second generation. The bit rate which you got, was somewhere between 150 to 200 Mbps. Okay. So which is larger than what we could get in the first generation. So you can see very clearly that 1G, the 2G was an enhanced version of the 1G system. Then came the third generation system. This operated in the wavelength of 1550 nanometers. Loss is very less, about 0.2 decibel per kilometer. Again, right now you may not understand this term 0.2 decibel per kilometer. This you'll understand more in module 2. But just right now you should only know that 3G systems, 3G optical communication systems provided very less loss. Okay. So the loss here was very, very less. The bit rate is 10 Gbps, and this used very efficient lasers and a type of photo detector which is known as an avalanche photo detector. Okay, so this was the third generation, and you can see that the bitrate is very high. So just an enhanced version of this 3G, we also have a fourth generation. This was in the wavelength range of 1450 nanometer to about 1620 nanometer. It used optical amplifiers. The previous generations used electrical amplifiers. Right now, I'll not tell you the difference between the two, but when the situation arises, when we talk about amplifiers, I'll let you know what is the difference between electrical and optical amplifiers. Right now, you should just know that optical amplifiers will directly amplify light, whereas electrical amplifiers need to convert light in the form of voltage, that is electricity, amplify them, then convert them back to light, and then send them. Okay, so there's an extra process in electrical amplifiers. Okay, here the bit rate which we could get, and you will be very surprised, 10 Tbps, very high bit rate, and the repeaters spacing here was close to 10,000 kilometers. So you needed one amplifier every 10,000 kilometers. So you can see how the generations have evolved. Okay, it has become so advanced because of our needs and with the help of technology. Lastly, the generation which we are right now using, not in India, but in general, European countries are using this generation. This is known as the fifth generation. So in wireless, we are still awaiting fifth generation to be deployed, whereas in optical communication, we are already using the fifth generation. Very soon, we'll see the fourth and fifth generation in India as well. Right? So the wavelength operation here is between 1530 to 1570 nanometer. You can see that compared to the 4G, the wavelength here reduced, and there is a particular reason for that, and I will explain you the reason very soon why 5G system used a lesser wavelength compared to the 4G. It is also using optical amplifiers, OAS. The bit rate that you get here is 14 Tbps. In fact, this is an old number. Very recently, industries have claimed going as close as 20 Tbps. So very high data rate. The repeater spacing that we could get, or we get here, is close to 25,000 to 35,000 kilometers. So you need one repeater every 25 to 35,000 kilometers, right? So you can see how the generations have evolved, and how we have moved from a very low bit rate of about 30 to 140 Mbps, in the range of Mbps, to Gbps, and then now we are in a position of getting Tbps, that is terabits per second, right? So this is good news for the customers, that you are able to get such high data rate out of an optical communication system. However, I mentioned it yesterday in yesterday's class. This can also become a disadvantage if you do not have means and methods of utilizing this enormous bandwidth properly, right? So to utilize this enormous bandwidth, we have good techniques, and the WDM technique the WDM technique or multiplexing technique really helps us in utilizing this bandwidth in a very efficient manner, right? So your module 4 and 5 is dedicated to WDM, and we'll see how this enormous available bandwidth through the OFC can be used using the WDM system, right? So having understood the generations, now we should look at what are known as the optical windows. These optical windows will really help us in understanding, of course, the modules, as well as understanding the generations and understanding how how the OFC will operate, right? So we already know that the OFC uses wavelengths near to the infrared region. Okay, so we are very close to the infrared region. So let me first draw the Windows diagram for you, and then after that I'll explain you what this diagram means. Okay, so this is a graph which you will be able to see. So the one on the y-axis will be attenuation, and the unit for attenuation is dB per kilometer. And the one on the y-axis is lambda, that is wavelength in nanometers. So here we'll have 1, 2. Okay, so we have, let's say, attenuation till 7. So the first window which we have for the optical fiber works somewhere between 800 to 900 nanometer, and it has attenuation somewhere between 6 to 6.5 decibel per kilometer. It's not an exact value, it's an approximation, right? The next window is somewhere between let me draw it and then explain to you. So the window is somewhere here. So it is around 1230 to about 1360 nanometer. This is the second. So this is the first window. This is the second window. The third window is in the range of 1500 nanometer. So it is somewhere at 1500 to somewhere around 1620 nanometer. So this is your third window. And the manner in which attenuation changes looks something like this. Okay, so the change of attenuation is somewhere around that, right? Now, what is important to note in these windows is the center wavelength. So between 800 and 850, the center wavelength is 850 nanometer. So if you recollect, the first generation operated at 850 nanometer. So that is the center wavelength, right? The second window is somewhere around 1310 nanometer. That is the center wavelength. Okay, and for the third generation, it is somewhere between 1550 nanometer, right? So these windows are very, very important for us. So let me place this here. In the first window, the center wavelength is 850 nanometer. In the second window, the center wavelength is 1310 nanometer, and in the third window, the center wavelength is 1550 nanometer. So these are basically the range of wavelengths which are used for optical communication, at which your fiber will operate, and at these ranges For those generations, it gave the highest performance, and these are known as the optical windows. Okay, so from an exam point of view, you most likely get a question: what is an optical fiber, and what are the various generations, and then what are the various optical windows? So these are the optical windows, right? So within these windows, you had different kinds of sources, detectors, and amplifiers which could work very well. So that also I will be listing out for you. So this is only in general, but currently we are operating in the third window, which is this window here, the third window, 1550 nanometer. It gives us very good performance, and we can reach very high data rate. So let me just draw a table for you so that it becomes clear to you. So let's say you have the window, the range, the operating wavelength. Operating wavelength would mean the center wavelength. Then let's say the source, which source was used, which receiver was used, and which amplifier was used. So let us make a table here. Let's see. So I'm just checking. I hope everything that I'm writing is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So in the first window, your range is this range also will be in nanometer. So you had somewhere between 800 to 900 nanometer. The center wavelength or the operating wavelength is 850 nanometer. The source used here is predominantly LED. However, there are issues with LED. I had explained this in the class day before yesterday. I will explain this again. What are the problems with LED? However, LEDs are preferred because they are cheap, and for short distances they operate very well. Therefore, most of your, all your projects which you are doing will have LEDs. They will be the ones which will be glowing. Okay, because you are showing everything in a short distance. So for short distance, LEDs work. For longer distance, they don't work. They are inefficient. Therefore, we have to use lasers. So in this window, LED was the one which was used as a source. The receiver was basically a pin photodetector. Pin photodetector. A photodetector is a device for which the input is photons, and it based on the number of photons which are falling on the detector, it converts them into corresponding electrons. So basically, a photodetector will convert light into electricity, that is current, right? So we have these details in module 3. The amplifiers which were used in this window were basically semiconductor amplifiers. Okay, so they were predominantly made out of silicon. They worked pretty well. However, they were electrical in nature. So like I specified, they had to convert incoming light into electricity, amplify them, convert them back into light, and then transmit them again. Okay, so you can understand as a communication engineer that this will take some time to convert and reconvert. Therefore, the delay was a little more. Okay? So we started preferring optical amplifiers because of that. Okay? So in the second window, the range is about 1260 to 1360 nanometer. This is an approximation, but it is in that range. The center wavelength is 13. Some books specify 1300, but from the articles and other things I've read, it is 1310 nanometer. Right? However, if you still write 1300 or 1310, both are correct. Right? But I would go with 1310 nanometer. The source which was used here is a laser, because in the second window, the transmission distance that we were expecting out of an OFC system was very, very large. Therefore, we started using a laser. Again, the detector which was used was a pin photodetector because it still gave a good enough performance. The amplifier again here was a semiconductor amplifier. So here we had not yet gone with the optical amplifiers. We were still working with the electrical amplifiers, right? And then we have the third window. This works in the range of 1500 to 1600 nanometers. Some books write 1650. It's an approximate value, so you could use that. The center wavelength here definitely is 1550 nanometer. Please don't change that. Okay. So 1550 nanometer is the wavelength at which we are operating the current OFC systems. The source was laser. The detector which we used here is the avalanche photo detector. It's an enhanced version of the pin photo detector. A stands here for avalanche. Avalanche in English basically means multiply. Right? So there is a system inside the APD, avalanche photodiode, which can multiply the number of electrons that are generated by the photodetector. Right? So we insert a new kind of a material there, and because of this material, whatever electrons the photodetector generates, it is that material is able to multiply it. Right? So it multiplies it by an integer, let's say 20 times, 40 times, and so on. Right? So this we'll see in module 3. The amplifiers which were used here were the optical amplifiers, and the most famous of that is the Raman amplifier, okay? Invented by our own Sir C.V. Raman. It is in general known as the Raman effect. Okay, I'll explain you the effect in module 4 when we talk about amplifiers. But Raman amplifiers are the most common types of optical amplifiers which you could use. So this is about the optical fiber generations, different types of generations, and the different windows which are being used in optical fiber. One confusion that students have is between the generation and the windows. Please understand the difference. There are 3 windows, but there are 5 generations. Okay? Windows basically tell you about the operation of the fiber, which wavelength the fiber is going to operate. However, the generations are how the optical fibers have evolved and what kind of advantages and facilities each generation gives to us. Right? So generation wise, we are at 5G. Globally, we are at 5G optical communication system. In India, you could say we are somewhere in between 3G to 4G systems. But in optical windows, definitely globally, we are at the third window, right? So we are using the 1550 nanometers. However, I'll also mention in module 2 and 3 again, in a very small distance, like an office environment, we are still using the 850 nanometer system, because for short distance you could use LED and therefore the system becomes cheap. With lasers, system becomes a little expensive. So it depends on your application whether you want an 850 nanometer system or a 1550 nanometer system. Right? So I hope this was clear. Any questions on this? Anyone? Any questions you want to ask? Again, I'll just check. I hope I'm audible and you're able to see everything that I write as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I hope this kind of online teaching works better than PPT, uh, or do you people want a PPT? You can let me know. I mean, in PPT, what happens is I show the picture and just talk. So I don't know how effective that is. But here, what happens is I draw and I also write. So I think it has a different effect rather than just showing the diagrams on PPT. So Anyway, you can get back to me with any other suggestions and we can take it forward. Okay, so having done the generations and the window, now let's move to the OFC system. So by the system, we mean the block diagram. Okay. And from a VTU exam point of view, this is a very popular question, mostly question number 1A for about 8 marks or 10 marks. Draw the block diagram of a general optical fiber communication system. Right? This is available everywhere, but if you understand the system, then there is no need to read anything. You can write it by your own self as well. Right? Okay. So before we go into the OFC system, in general, for transmitting data or transmitting signal, we need a transmitter. I'll write in short, TX. There has got to be a receiver, RX, and then there has to be a channel, and you connect these. This will be the input. This will be the output. So this is an ideal system where if input is x of t, we expect the output to be x of t. But like we discussed the last class, there's always going to be this factor noise, which is n of t. And if this channel is assumed to be additive, then what we get out of the receiver, or what we get at the receiver, will be x of t plus n of t. This noise here is random in nature, therefore the output at the receiver is also random in nature. Okay. I don't know if you're aware, x of t is not random, because as the transmitter, I know what I'm transmitting. Right? If I'm transmitting, let's say, a good morning message, I know I have transmitted good morning. Right? However, if noise is affecting that good morning, and if the morning moves away or is deleted, what I get at the receiver is only good. Right? Or if good is deleted, what I get at the receiver is only morning. Right? So the noise is random, therefore it also makes the received signal random. However, the transmitted signal is never random, because the source always knows what message the source has passed. Okay. So let us first take only the transmitter. So I'm giving you an overview of a general communication system, and then we'll move to the optical fiber communication system. Right? So if I take only the transmitter, it is not that I can just take any data and transmit, right? Because I should be transmitting the data in a format which can be understood by the receiver, right? So I had given this example in the class, I'll give again. Right now I'm speaking in English, and the receivers, which are you people, are able to understand English, right? However, if I was talking in some other language which you cannot understand, I need a system which can translate whatever language I'm using into a language which can be understood by the receiver, right? So in the transmitter, within the transmitter, I should have usually, to pick out the signals, and antenna, right? So you will always have an antenna to pick out the signals. You have what is known as a source coder. This source coder will basically code the signal. That means it will ensure that whatever data is being transmitted by this transmitter is in a format which is useful or which is understood by the receiver. Right? So in our example, this source coder will convert whatever language I was using into an English language which you can understand. Right? Followed by the modulator, and then this output goes to the channel. Right? Now if we take the receiver, let me draw the receiver here. if I take the receiver, obviously the first part in the receiver has to be a demodulator, because the signal which is incoming would be a very high frequency signal, so I need a demodulator, followed by if the source coder has not done a very good job of coding the signal, or which I cannot really understand, then I need a receiver coder. But there is nothing called as a receiver coder. It is basically what is known as an equalizer. Okay. You will also see this equalizer being called sometime as an equalizer filter. Okay. So I'm not going into the details of what is an equalizer right now, but when the time comes in module 3, I will explain you what is an equalizer. It's a very, very important device. For those of you who listen to music on Windows Media Player or VLC player or any kind of player, you will have a tab which will show you equalizer. So if you have not yet used it to listen to your music, just change settings in the equalizer and you will find out what is the effect. Right? In music, it basically changes the bass of a signal. Okay? So this equalizer filter is a very important filter there. Okay? So that's how your transmitter and receiver looks like. I'm not going into the channel too much, but the channel which we are using in this particular subject, or which we are talking about in this subject, is an optical fiber channel. So the channel here is an optical fiber cable, and then optical fiber cable is non-linear channel. Okay. A wireless channel is a linear channel. So what happens in a wireless channel? If this is the wireless channel, the input is some X, the noise is N, the output that you get out of that channel is X plus N, if this is wireless. Okay. However, we are not dealing with wireless, so we'll stick to OFC. OFC is a non-linear channel. So what happens here in the OFC, if the input is X, if the noise is N, the output is not X plus N, it is some X square plus N cube, or it could be X cube plus N square, X to the X raised to 4 times plus N raised to 6 times. We do not know, right? So the output here will be some X raised to some value plus N raised to some value. It's a non-linear channel, right? So that makes things more complicated, because we are always used to a linear channel. We like linearity. X and Y are the two inputs, X plus Y is the output. We are very, very happy. So we always want a graph like that, the Y equal to mx plus c. That's a linear graph, right? We do not want a graph like that. That's a non-linear graph, right? So we are always expecting the graph and the contents to be linear. However, OFC makes it tough for us because it is a non-linear channel. Okay. So, that was some introduction there. Now, before we move on to the actual block diagram for an OFC system, at the transmitter and at the receiver, you have seen that we are using a modulator and a demodulator. So just to recap, what is this modulation, right? So there are two questions to modulation. What is it and why should I do this, right? So we always have the answer to what. So we know that take a low frequency signal, superimpose it on a high frequency signal, you will get a high frequency modulated signal, and then at the other end you demodulate it. However, we may not really be aware of why we are doing that. Okay, so let me explain you that with a diagram. I have done that in the class also, so very quickly I'll explain this to you. Right? So the data which you are transmitting, or which you wish to transmit, is between 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz, because that is the frequency which a human ear is susceptible to. Right? Now, the channel which you are using, let's take the example of OFC itself, because we are reading that. This is in the range of terahertz. Right? So obviously you can see that there is a frequency mismatch. The highest frequency for your data signal is kilohertz, whereas the frequency range of the channel which you wish to operate on is terahertz. So there is obviously a mismatch, right? Now, why do you wish to operate with a channel at a high frequency? Terahertz will give you more bandwidth, right? That's why you wish to operate with a channel at very high frequency. However, if you use just the data signal, the highest bandwidth that you will get is f2 minus f1, which in this case is 20 kilohertz minus 20 hertz, which is 20 kilohertz. This is the highest bandwidth, right? And obviously 20 kilohertz is not enough for us. If I want to just watch a video of about 3 to 4 minutes on YouTube, that itself is in the range of some Mbps, right? Megahertz. Whereas the bandwidth, highest bandwidth that I'm getting in the data to which human ear is susceptible is the highest bandwidth is 20 kilohertz, right? So therefore we should be in a position to increase the bandwidth. So we use a modulator, or we use the technique of modulation, in which we take the low frequency data signal. So this is your low frequency data signal. A here stands for amplitude. If you don't like A, we can also put voltage. So this is a low frequency signal. You superimpose this with a very high frequency signal. So this is the data. It is also known as the base band signal because it is the lowest frequency. This high frequency signal is known as the carrier signal. And once you superimpose these two signals, it is like multiplying a lower number. This is a lower number with a higher number. The answer which you get is a higher number. Therefore, what you will get here is a very high frequency modulated signal. What has happened here is the data or the baseband signal, whose highest frequency is kilohertz, is multiplied with a carrier signal which is in the range of terahertz, and since it is a lower number into higher number, the frequency which you get in the modulated signal is terahertz, that is high frequency, right? So the reason why we modulate is to get very high bandwidth, and there are other advantages as well, that you can transmit the signal for longer distance and so on and so forth. However, the major reason is that you can increase the bandwidth, right? However, this terahertz frequency we cannot receive because our ear is used to 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Therefore, at the receiver end, you need to do the opposite process of demodulation, where you, from this modulated signal, you take out the carrier wave, keep it aside, and just take the data out, right? So that is the use of modulation and demodulation. Okay. So now, having done that, we are in a position to draw the block diagram of an OFC system. Okay, so this is a very popular VTU question. So what you have is an information source. You can also just write it as source because source is about information. Then you have a transmitter, which will have the source coder and, very important, the modulator. Followed by the channel or the medium, and in our case this is an OFC cable. This will be followed by the receiver, which will be the demodulator, and you'll have the destination, right? So this part here, the dotted part, basically is your communication system. This is your communication system. Okay, so it's very easy to understand what is going to happen. The transmitter is going to transmit using the modulator. Frequency will be high. You are using the channel to pass on your message. The channel may also have some issues with itself. For example, OFC has attenuation and dispersion, which we'll discuss in module 2. Once the signal is received by the receiver, you demodulate it, and then you go ahead with passing it to the destination. Okay. Now this is a general communication system. Now let's see what happens in the OFC system specifically. So instead of writing information source, I'm just going to write source. Now you must realize that OFC deals with light, but this source which you have here is only going to deal with an electrical current or electric. It is basically part of an electrical system. Therefore, the output which you will get from the source is electrical in nature. So this will be electrical output. However, since OFC deals with light, you need a device which can convert electrical output to a light output, and this light output can now go into the OFC, right? So this block which is blank right now is basically an optical source. So I'll just write on top of these arrows what this optical source will do. This optical source will take the electrical output, which will be in the form of electrons, E minus, and its job will be to convert these electrons into corresponding photons, which I denote as HF. So this HF is photons, and this E minus are the electrons, right? So the job of the source is to convert the electrons into the corresponding photons, right? So now we take the output from the OFC, the cable, and we come here. Now the input which you have to this particular block here is light, that is, this is HF, it is photons. Why? Because the output from the OFC is only going to be light. However, we cannot give light to the receiver because the receiver will not understand, because the receiver wants to receive electrical data, right? So I want to have electrical reception. Therefore, this block, the blank block here, needs to be a device that can convert photons back into electrons. That means it should be able to convert light into corresponding electrical output, and this kind of a device is an optical detector. Optical detector. Please don't write optical receiver, it's an optical detector because it needs to detect light. Okay, you don't receive light, you detect light. There is a difference there. Okay, so in terms of the source, you could have LED or laser, and in terms of the detector, you could have a pin diode or an APD. Right? And then the output of this electrical reception will go to destination. Okay. If this system happens to be a long distance, then at appropriate points we can also add repeaters or amplifiers. Right? So that block can also be made. There is a separate block for optical detectors, because so this optical detector here, this also has a separate block diagram, and it involves a few important things. So right now we don't have time for that. So in the next lecture, I'll start with optical detector block diagram. I'll be making that and explaining that to you. That's where you will see the equalizer, right, and what it does. I've already explained to you what are the advantages and disadvantages of the optical fiber communication. After doing this block diagram for optical detector, we'll move on to, so this will have a block diagram. We'll move on to the structure of an optical fiber, followed by the mathematical part, which will start with the Snell's law and then deriving different kinds of other parameters for the optical fiber. Right? In effect, in these two lectures and one lecture offline, I've given you a complete overview about the subject and what is the block diagram of OFC and what are the advantages, so on and so forth. So in the coming lectures, we'll really start with the mathematical aspects of OFC. So I suggest that all of you attend the class. We will not be having much time to repeat, these aspects. The first two modules have a lot of mathematics. The third one has a little lesser amount of mathematics. Fourth and fifth is theoretical. Right? So you need to really attend module 1 and 2. Okay. So the recording will be up on the Teams group. I will also be uploading the ebooks on the Teams, so you can download it there. Okay. So I will see you in the next lecture. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.